In the movie's prologue, we're told that humans spend the next few decades colonizing surrounding planets. The starship Event Horizon was sent on a mission to explore the edge of our solar system but disappeared near Neptune, and is considered the worst space disaster on record. 7 years after its disappearance, the ship suddenly reappears with the entire 18-person crew missing, except for one who were shown screaming in zero gravity before we transition to Dr. William. Tormented by the recent passing of his wife Claire, the Event Horizon's designer lives on a lonely space station orbiting Earth. The starship Lewis and Clark is tasked with making contact with the Horizon under the command of Captain Miller. On the bridge with him's the ship's pilot Smith, along with the communications officer Starck, and the chief engineer Justin. Below deck, the rescue technician Cooper makes final preparations as Williams join them for the journey. With very little time until departure, the medical technician Peters gets him ready for the 72-day journey to Neptune. The crew's Dr. DJ gives him an injection to withstand the G-force as they're put into stasis to sleep. During their trip, William wakes up before anyone else and begins walking around the empty ship. He makes his way to the bridge when he's suddenly grabbed from behind by his wife missing her eyeballs, then wakes up back in his tank having just been dreaming. He's expelled and helped up to his feet before being offered a cup of coffee. Cooper then tries his luck with Starck, asking if she'd enjoy a hot black one herself, but she turns down the generous offer. After a brief recovery, the crew sit around and listen to William explain the details of their mission. He says that the Event Horizon was built to test an experimental gravity drive that creates an artificial black hole, allowing the ship to make a trip from one point in space to another instantaneously. While testing the machine, the starship vanished and they're here to find out why. He plays for them the only audio transmission received since the ship's reappearance, which is just a series of disturbing screams and shouts, except for some Latin which DJ says translates to "save me." Once they reach a cloud above Neptune, Smith almost flies directly into the Horizon, revealing the massive size compared to the Clark. They dock up as the sensors indicate the gravity's offline and thus the interior temperature's uninhabitable. Miller, Justin and Peters are the first to board the starship, entering via the ship's main corridor, which separates its two sections. The corridor's filled with explosives meant to be used to blow the ship in half in an emergency and allowing the front to become an escape vessel. Peters and Miller proceed while Justin enters the rear of the ship alone, walking through a giant meat grinder used to remove his magnetic field, allowing him access to the gravity core. The reason the Event Horizon was built, and the device capable of instantaneous space travel. Arriving at the bridge, Miller and Peters miss the wallpaper of human remains, but while Peters collects the ship's log, she's met with the frozen corpse of the man from the beginning. Meanwhile, the core suddenly turns on in front of Justin, opening to reveal a black liquid. When he touches it, he's pulled inside, releasing a shockwave that travels through the entire ship, breaching the bridge and knocking Miller back. The hull of the Clark's breached and the crew fight to keep it from sinking, while Cooper boards the Event Horizon and manages to pull an unconscious Justin out of the core by his tether. When the ship settles down, Peters restores the artificial gravity, sending the frozen corpse shattering to the ground while the pools of black liquid splash down around Cooper. He takes Justin to the medical bay on the Event Horizon, where he's left unresponsive to be treated by Peters. With power restored to the abandoned starship, the human remains lining the bridge windows are revealed to the crew. Only having 20 hours of oxygen available on the Horizon, Smith's tasked with repairing the breach in the Clark as quickly as possible. Cooper explains what happened to his captain, but William calls him a liar, maintaining that the gravity drive could never have activated by itself. He takes them to the core to show it now in a stable condition, and explains that the black hole it creates when turned on allows them to bend space with its immense power, but Miller declares it off limits despite William's constant protests. Soon after, Peters is alone in the med bay when she sees her son she left back on Earth, but in a blink he's gone as it was just a hallucination. She discovers a video log that shows the original Horizon crew cheerfully making preparations to open the gateway, when the feed suddenly distorts and the ship has a power surge. Finding the core to be draining the power, William enters the computer to search for the problem, but he finds the failsafe to have blown a fuse when suddenly the power surges again. Appearing right in front of him, his eyeball-less wife asks him to be with her forever, then disappears. During this time, Justin starts convulsing and wakes shell-shocked to tell DJ that the darkness is coming. Outside of the core's computer, Miller has his own vision of a burning man rising from the pool below the gravity drive. The team members discuss the hallucinations, when Smith attacks William, blaming him for killing the previous Horizon crew by defying the laws of nature with the core. DJ restrains him with his scalpel but releases him as if he didn't mean to take it so far, when Smith goes straight back at William before being told by Miller to get back on repairs. Starck gives the captain her theory that the Event Horizon brought something back with it and has become a living entity itself, causing the hallucinations as a defense mechanism to ward off the human threat. Miller's main concern's the 10 hours they have left to get oxygen restored to the Clark before the Horizons runs out. A few hours later there's a large power surge in the medical base, sending Peters running back to the bridge terrified, when an unseen force begins denting the door in. In a possessed state, William attempts to open it, but is stopped by Starck telling him that self-control's an asset. Peters then notices that Justin's conscious and they race over to find him standing in the airlock. Tormented by what he saw inside the ship's gravity core, he begins the ejection process, decompressing the airlock and getting ejected. At the same time, Miller's overseeing repairs on the hull outside, and when the airlock opens, he tackles Justin back inside the Horizon. They put him in one of the stasis tanks, and with only 4 hours left of oxygen, Miller demands answers from William, but he continues to act ignorant. When he leaves, the captain touches his head to the ship and has a vision of the crew being brutally slaughtered. He tells DJ that the man on fire was a teammate who he was once forced to leave behind in a fire, and his theory that the Event Horizon is using their secrets to torment them. DJ then admits that he translated the message from the ship incorrectly, and that the original message says "save yourself from hell." Just then Miller's informed over the intercom that the scrambled video logs finally repaired, showing the original Horizon crew in a blood-soaked freak fest only moments after departing through the gateway. The Latin message they received was said by the ship's captain while holding his own eyeballs in his hands. Miller demands the crew get back on the Clark immediately, and everyone begins making preparations to leave, while obviously William objects to abandoning his creation. The moment the captain says his plans to destroy the Event Horizon when they reach a safe distance, the ship begins to drain power to the core in preparation for an attack. When Miller tells William that they're going home with or without him, the now completely crazy ship's designer says the Horizon's his home and disappears into the shadows. Smith and Peters collect the Horizon's remaining oxygen filters, but while they're leaving, Peters has another vision of her son and goes back for him. She chases him to the upper level and is lured by him off a ledge, plummeting down a shaft back into the core and dying on impact. William enters the core and discovers her body with blackened eyes when he begins to have another vision of his wife. It's revealed that Claire was so lonely with him never being around that she took her own life. Then when the ship's illusion of her reappears to William, he removes his own eyes with his bare hands to be with her. Now guided by the ship, William spotted by Smith exiting the Clark just as Cooper is making the final repairs to it. He notifies Miller, who sees that the explosives are missing from the Horizon and warns Smith to evacuate, but wanting to save his ship he begins frantically searching for it, finding it too late and being blown up along with the Lewis and Clark. Cooper's blown into space by the blast and left drifting above Neptune, but uses his suit's oxygen to propel him back towards the Horizon. Witnessing through the portal his ship be destroyed, Miller warns DJ over the intercom to look for William and kill him if he can, but he turns around to be greeted by the eyeless doctor and thrown around the medbay. Taking to his body with various blades, Miller hears but gets to the facility too late, finding DJ already killed and splayed out all over the place. He begins searching for the madman and finds Starck just regaining consciousness on the ship's bridge, but William's already there waiting for him with his sockets now fashionably sewn shut. Holding them at gunpoint with one of the repair tools, he explains that the drive successfully opened a gateway, but it took them to another dimension instead, one close to the human concept of hell, a place of pure chaos and evil where the Event Horizon returned possessed. Attempting to rush William, Starck's foiled by the blind man and knocked unconscious again. He then says that where they're going they don't need eyes, and begins a 10-minute countdown to open a gateway back to the chaos dimension. Just then Cooper makes it back to the ship, startling William, who fires at him without a second thought. The window shatters, decompressing the bridge and sucking William and his entire seat straight out. Miller barely holds on and drags himself out of the room just as Starck comes to and calls out to him. Using a pry bar he prevents the door's sealing and just manages to drag her to safety before it gives out. The two hear someone enter the airlock, and expecting the worst they're met by a still-living Cooper. With the countdown active, they decide to implement the escape plan by blowing up the Horizon's corridor and using its forward section to reach Earth. The three split up and start making preparations, with Miller arming what's left of the explosives. Cooper turns on the distress beacon when the stasis tank suddenly begins filling with red, rupturing and washing Starck down the ladder to Cooper in a pool of blood. Miller's confronted by his burning friend again, and with no other direction is forced to flee from his attack into the ship's core. With the room now on fire, the burning man begins hitting Miller around the core, then transforms into William, claiming the ship brought him back just like he said it would. Now practically invulnerable, he beats Miller around and shows him visions of his remaining crew tortured and mutilated. Just as the core begins to activate and with no other option, Miller manages to retrieve his drop detonator and sacrifices himself, destroying William and the gravity drive. The explosion pushes the forward section away while a temporary wormhole swallows the rear. With Justin still in a coma, the two survivors put themselves into stasis to wait out the return trip to Earth. After 72 days, a rescue team intercepts the Horizon above the planet and boards, waking Starck up from her sleep first. The responder reveals himself to be William when Starck suddenly wakes up in front of the real rescue team, having just been dreaming. As Cooper helps them restrain the hysterical survivor, the stasis chamber doors mysteriously shut by themselves. And the movie ends.
It's as if the ship brought back something with it, a life force of some kind.
What are you telling me, that this ship is alive?
So you made it. I appreciate your time. I couldn't have done it without you. Tell your mother I said thanks.
You wanted an answer, and it's the only one I've got.